So a few days ago, I was talking to Beanie and to David, and they came up with a great idea of uh, being able to, based on comments in an MR, being able to automatically fix those comments. So, for example, this is an MR, which is a very simple, hello world type Go application, which basically just is a simple web server. And we've got some comments from a reviewer saying, hey, can we update this code, right? For example, here we're using the panic keyword here, which is never a good practice. And so, can we update this? Or we've got this other comment here, which is saying that, hey, can we update this code so that it actually looks at system signals, right? And that's pretty hard to do when people tend to ignore those kind of best practices when they're first starting out. And so these are great comments by the reviewer. And one of the questions was, can we use AI to be able to fix these comments automatically? Now, one of the things I wanted to use is the agent framework that we discussed a few weeks ago, and whether we could use the agent framework to actually make this a lot easier. So to get an agent to actually fix these issues for us and maybe even push the code. So that's what I've done. So let me show you. Let me actually show you what I have. So I am using the same version 2 of the version 2 of the API gateway that I was trying to POC. And basically, if you see this, all we're saying is we've got this little small prompt saying, can you fix this issue with the repository? And we've got like the MR ID, the project ID, the note that we want to fix. So we want to fix the first note first, so this one here. So could we update this code so that we don't use panic here? And then we also got the branch that needs to be updated, right? So that's what it is. So let's see if we can get AI to actually auto fix this. So I'm going to go ahead and I've got V2 of the AI gateway running, and this is the version that uses agents. And I'm going to go ahead and just curl it with curl the fixit endpoint um, with the JSON file which I showed you. And so it's going to go ahead and I'll show you what's happening behind the scenes. The agent's actually cloning the repository. It's looking at the context and then it's starting to send stuff to Claude. And essentially what it's telling Claude is, hey, here's a list of tools that you have. And based on those tools, can you please, you got this read file tool, write file tool, and push tool. So can you please go ahead and make your changes that you need to the corresponding files. So that's what it's doing here behind the scenes. And because I've got verification enabled, it's asked me to do that before I push. But finally, we should have pushed the changes. So let me just go back to the repository. And you can see that there's a commit right now and it's pushed a change. So go and say, hey, can you show me the issue? And then you can see that it's changed it from a panic to a log.fatal, right? So the AI has successfully like fixed that issue. Let me do another one. So the other one's an even harder problem. So this was about, can we change this code to use sigkill? And that's a significant change. We'll need to make lots of changes to actually fix this code. So I've got another file here, which is very similar to the first one actually. The only thing that's different is the note ID. So this is a different note on the MR, right? And you can imagine this API will be called that I'm showing you from like a MR comment or something. And so I could go ahead and actually do that. So I could say, this time I want to use fixit2.json. And again, it'll go through the same process. It'll clone the repository, check out the branch, and it'll give the list of tools to the agent and say, hey, do you want to read this file? Do you want to write this file? Do you want to push the repository, etc. And so hopefully you should see the agents actually making the change. Give it a few seconds to complete. I may have to just run this once more. And there you go. It's completed the change. So it's made the changes to gracefully handle sigkill. And so if I go back here and I refresh, we should be able to see another commit. There you go. And then if I say compare with previous version, you can see that it has gone ahead and implemented a whole bunch of code to look at system signals, watch and see whether the signals are executed, and then if needed, shut down the server, right? Again, this would take at least me, a few, half an hour to write and figure out how to do this. It was able to quickly make that change just based on a small MR comment, right? So with that, I just want to show you how this is actually configured using agents. So the way I've done this is I've created this fixit Tanuki fixit agent, and basically it uses the Anthropic model to actually do this. I've also given a reference to a few tools. So if I look at tools, you'll see that I have given it access to a few tools. So one is repository clone, to be able to clone a repository. It's the ability to pre-populate the prompt with note information. So we take the information from that specific comment, right? Whether it's fix a sickle operation or whatever, and then we populate that into the prompt template. And then we've got this read file to read a specific file, write file, and then push repository. Some of these are pre-processing tasks, which will happen actually before the agent starts working. And then the rest of them, these response tasks, are what an agent would definitely call itself. The agent proactively would then call read file, write file, push repository. I'll just show you what that looks like when you actually just call the API. So if we call the agent API, which is basically nothing but your prompt registry API, it has all these tools: the repository clone, the notes pre-population, read file, write file, push repository. It uses the Anthropic model with a temperature of 0, etc. So this is the configuration for the actual agent itself. And that's pretty much it. In the code itself, I have written code for each of these tools. So for example, I'll just walk you through the repository tool. So the repository tool, for example, the clone tool, all it really does is just clones the repository locally, and then the agent can then read from that repository. So again, very very simple things. I will also show you the root configuration actually. So that is this here. So I'll be saying this agent's called Tanuki Fixit. It's available at this API endpoint, and it uses this corresponding agent, right? So that's pretty much it. So you can imagine that this is just another feature that people develop on the AI Gateway. All they need to do is create that agent configuration in the agent registry, and then just define a path and say, okay, I want to call this version of that agent. And of course, if you need to create more tools, you need to write code for that. But you can imagine that we can create a whole bunch of generic tools that can be used by multiple teams, and so you don't even need to write that code. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this example of using the agent architecture to drive features. Thank you.